Welcome to Pitch It To Me Podcast, a show about the subjective past, present, and potential future of flesh and blood design. And now, a word from our sponsors. Today's episode will be about Bright Lights, the new Flesh and Blood set that's hot off the production line. On Red Pitch, let's talk about the new heroes. On Yellow Pitch, we'll discuss what jumped out at us from the set list. On Blue Pitch, we'll count up our predictions and see what we got right. You can find us across all socials such as TikTok and Instagram at Pitch It To Me Podcast.
Bright Lights is officially out, and the future is bright.
Better don those sunglasses from the future, boys.
The neon is literally burning out my retinas.
It's because it's in the helmets.
Yeah, I have a bunch of neon inside of my visor, and it's just destroying my eyes.
We're recording this episode from before pre-release. It's Tuesday, guys. It's the Tuesday before pre-release. We haven't had the chance to play with any of these cards yet, you know? We're not exactly pumping out proxies in order to practice. Mm-hmm. But
Nerd.
all the cards have been spoiled, so we can talk about the set and answer the burning question that's on everyone's mind. What are people wondering, Clark?
By the end of the episode, we are going to talk about which one of us had the most correct predictions from way back in episode 9, the pitch-in predictions on Bright Lights. We made that whole episode about predictions of what would the new set look like, and we're going to talk about most of them. We can't talk about all of them, but we're going to talk about most of them.
And we had some wild guesses in there.
We really did. Some of us really swung for the fences and were really wrong.
I don't really expect to get a lot of points here, but...
I don't like how both of you glanced at me in the same sentence.
I look at you to include you in the conversation because I feel like your little sound bar... I feel like your little sound thing just sometimes excludes you from the group, and so I oftentimes choose to look at you to bring you in.
If I wasn't an integral part of the podcast, I'd be okay with being not included. Because this set is still mecha knowledge. It's the same boring text is at the bottom.
All the neon lights aren't quite your vibe?
No.
They're giving you a sunburn?
They took away the guns. Like, okay, we won't do guns. We'll do tanks. And they'll be fighting people from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Like, hello?
All right, let's go ahead and get into Red Pitch. For our Red Pitch for this episode, we want to talk about all the different heroes that have been spoiled and their weapons. So let's start with, I think the one that none of us here are very excited about, Dash.io, or as I've heard people started calling it on the Discord, Data Dash.
I like Data Dash. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's catchy.
Mm-hmm. I do like this hero design. I think it's really interesting. I think focusing on items is going to be important. I feel like this is going to be a really great opportunity for LSS to learn a lot about how to make items work in constructed decks so that when they finally release the Alchemist, they know what to do with the items.
And this seems like a cool way to balance it too. If you're playing them from the top of your deck, then you don't care if they block. You can use the ones you draw to pitch to play other items, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really slick design.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to get around not only not blocking, but it doesn't have, the items don't typically have go again. The ones that in, I think it was Dynasty.
But yeah, Dash gets to look at the top card of her deck. I think that's so fun. You can look at it any time. You
That's
can be
so
like,
obnoxious.
I block. Oh, look at the top card of my deck. Fate Foreseen. Opt one. Send it to the bottom. Okay, I'm gonna look at the top card of my deck again. What was the top card of my deck again? I forgot. It's because the last time I looked at the top card of my deck. That's gonna be me. I'm gonna play draft. It's gonna be a Dash database deck. That's gonna be the open seat. I'm going to be obnoxiously looking at the top card of my deck all the time.
It's really cool. Instant speeding to get around the lack of go again that's inherently built into items and is expected of them.
And it costs an additional 1, so it's not free.
That's also really cool. It's a way of creating the, quote-unquote 5 intellect hero while still gating it up behind 2 conditions. Because we know how powerful it is to have +1 intellect. And so them being able to do that, but still limit it in these interesting ways. I think it's really clean card design.
Yeah, not only do you have reduced health, but you have an additional cost for these items, so it's not as obnoxious as how, wizards play from at instant speed, either off the top of their deck or from their arsenal.
Mm-hmm. And often just play whenever they want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that they put this on a mechanologist hero. Like, it could have been something that they, printed this as an alchemist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, someone whose focus is items. But mechanologist also has the interaction with boost. You don't like the card on top of your deck? That's fine. You boost, and you might get another chance at finding an item off the top of your deck. There's a lot of value that can be seen from interacting with the top of your deck, opt, boost, shuffle, and dash database, finding items off the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not super excited about it, but it is interesting. And Dash already kind of was the item hero beforehand. Like, her only ability was to get an item to your battlefield.
Mm-hmm. Her spec was to find an item from the deck.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So seeing her be the designated item hero seems like a win, a flavor win at least.
I also still really like how they were able to create this design without pushing out the other Dash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because
they're very different.
They are, because the original Dash can get an item of cost 2.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of these really strong 2-cost items that Dash.io doesn't want to run. I don't think a lot of the items that they gave us were very interesting.
I feel like I looked at those so briefly because I was so caught up on the Evo stuff. That's where I was putting my attention. So they're like, script, security protocol. I'm like, the flavor on these is really cool. I love the patterns and the design, the red, yellow, blue pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I did not spend any time trying to figure out if they were good cards or not. Let's talk about the weapon for Dash database. Joel, would you mind reading that for me? My computer's not working today.
I don't mind at all, actually. So she got a symbiosis shot, which is a nothing for 2. So it's a Dash specialization, and it has an action where you remove a steam counter from this, and then you attack.
How do we get steam counters?
I'm glad you asked, Clark. So whenever a mechanologist item enters the arena under your control, if this has fewer than 6 steam counters, you may put a steam counter on this. Swings for 2. So similar to your plasma pistol.
Yeah, similar to the plasma pistol plan, which was all about trying to net all these action points, and then you could just turn 1 resource into 2 damage. And with Dash, the idea was that you'd have a bunch of random resources just kind of floating about in the ether. You would use that for a bunch of extra pistol shots. Here they've done something similar.
And I like that you can kind of just stack them and store them away for later turns. If you're just stacking, and I'm wondering, so notably this actually doesn't work with her previous premium items like Plasma Purifier and Induction Chamber. So it's a little bit of a different game plan. I think you still want to play High Octane or play other cards that give your weapon additional attacks or go again or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you're just stacking these steam counters and you maybe shoot once a turn, which is, it comes in for free, which is good because you're spending these other resources playing items off the top, things like that. But just a notable decrease in power from her original gun.
Even then, just loading up and knowing that even if you have no cards in your deck, you can still swing however many amounts of times. It feels relevant.
I think it's all about system reset and setting up a combo.
Yeah.
Or being able to use the ability to play items for instant speed off the top and then netting action points by cranking those items is how you end up with multiple action points to shoot multiple times.
Yeah, you're I swing with my gun, but is my turn over? You don't know if I'm going to flash in an item.
And then crank it to gain the action point and do it
again. And then just swing again. Even if I
Yeah.
didn't have steam counters, all I had was 1 card in hand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, any card in hand is automatically threatening
Symbiosis shots.
at least another symbiosis shot.
Wow.
At
So
least
instead
one.
of pummel, you're worried about maybe 6 more damage on top of this stupid gun.
Linked out over multiple turns.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Kadashis are powerful, right? Because it's 1, I could take 1. Oh, 1 again? Shit.
Very different than the original Dash Plasma Pistol, but even though it's just one small change, very different game plan.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Max, quote unquote, the hype Nitro?
I love him. I love my little... He's not even anarchist. He is definitely punk.
He's punky.
Yes.
He is punk as fuck.
I really think it's cool how they decided to make Hyperdriver a token, kind of similar to Crouching Tigers, but for a card we've already seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And he can just make one every turn if he wants to. And it's really badass. I love the Hyperdriver design that they've leaned into with Bright Lights and especially Max Nitro.
Yeah, I like how they keep evolving this specific part of Dash because they made it cohesive with the Nitro Mechanoid plan. Like, you need 3 of them on the field.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh my god, how do you get that many more non-blocks to get 3 on the field and then destroy all of your equipment to get this Nitro Mechanoid? And then here we have Evos, which is like a step above, but different.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of them require hyperdrivers now. So it's kind of like siloed the hyperdriver design behind this aggro game plan where it kind of functions like a tectonic plating in a weird way. So it's like aggro, but mid-range, and then you can like, I'm sure there's going to be builds where you use Nitro Mechanoid in some interesting way, or the other armor that got printed that interact with the hyperdrivers. I just thought it was interesting. I really didn't see that coming. Like, from all the boost cards that I thought they could have printed, I thought they'd give more like Pulse Wave Harpoon or whatever, but creating more items as a part of the boost game plan was kind of out of left field for me.
Joel, can you read the hero text, the hero ability text?
So his activated ability is a once per turn action, you pay 2. Create a hyperdriver with 2 steam counters as compared to 3 on like the card version.
The red version. Yellow comes in with 2.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, you're right. So red would come in with 3, blue comes with the 1. Activate this ability only if you've boosted this turn. And then the hyperdrivers that you create have Crank. And Crank, contrary to what we initially thought it was going to be, removes a steam counter to give you an action point. Because this ability itself does not have Go again.
Yeah. Which is really cool because that then goes into his weapon, Banksy, where for 1 resource, once per turn, you can attack. And if you hit, you get to put a steam counter onto an item with Crank. And you can only activate that ability if you've cranked this turn. So the whole idea for Max, and I've been doing a lot of playtesting with Max, is that you want 3 resources at the end of your turn to make a hyperdriver, crank it, and then swing with Banksy. And it's a lot. It's a pretty high resource ask for not a ton of value. If you think about it, you're really attacking for only 3 physical off of 1 blue card.
Well, that is still kind of powerful, though, because you're saying that last blue in your hand, assuming you were able to hold on to it, forces them to get rid of a card in their hand, and you still have a hyperdriver with 1 resource to carry over into your next turn. That's pretty aggressive.
Yeah, when you're first starting out, it just seems like not only do you have to boost every turn to get the crank, but you have to crank every turn to
swing with Banksy.
That's a freaking mouthful. Anyhow, the early game is going to be really weird because you want to be boosting and then you want to have enough resources to create these hyperdrivers, and then assuming you hit with Banksy, you kind of like get the full value of the hyperdriver that you create. And then, like you said, once you have multiple of them and you play things like Jumpstart or Crankshaft, like you boost them away, then you're just keeping multiple hyperdrivers throughout the game, and you just have these free resources.
Yeah.
And you just create them every single turn.
And interestingly enough, you want to always put your steam counters on your token hyperdrivers because you want the hyperdrivers that you're able to get into play to go to Graveyard or Banish Zone so that then Blessing of Innovation can get good value for you.
Yeah, so you're saying the cards, the hyperdrivers that are in your physical deck, you want to play those out and then not nurture those with steam counters.
Yeah.
So that they can go to grave and be replayed later through some other effect that you have.
Yes. It's a very interesting give and take. It's very weird to manage, but it has been fun to play with so far.
And it sounds like the mechanologist's dream, right? You have this like assembly line of items that are coming in and out, getting value. You have, like, what was it? I saw the meme that was like, mechanologists think they're winning when they have more dice on the arena than anyone else. And like Max Nitro fulfills that fantasy of having a lot of dice.
Max Nitro almost feels like the item hero in that way. The way that he's like so centered around these hyperdrivers, but he's the boost-centric hero. Like, you need a boost to be able to create your hyperdrivers. You need a boost to get value from your hyperdrivers. Mm-hmm. Like, he's far more the boost hero. Yeah, even though he has this super item centric, and he has Crank on his hero card. And we were
Yeah.
like, Crank's going to be the item hero ability. Nope, it's the boost hero ability.
Okay, do you guys want to move on to Teklevasen, perhaps the most flashy of the three?
Yeah.
I would say definitely the flashiest. Like, I was looking, it was like, oh, new boost coming, don't care. New Evo, yo!
So Teklevasen is a 20/40 health hero. You may play Evos from your banish zone, however they get there, whenever you want, but you can pay 3 resources once per turn as an instant to play your next Evo as an instant, and if you do, draw a card.
Yeah, he's a
Kano much?
he's a pretty good hero. The ability to like have that power stored in your banish zone, the moment your opponent has an off turn and all red, they don't throw enough damage at you. You use that as your opportunity to get an Evo out onto the field. It seems good.
It's all about how fast you can head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Because right off the bat, he's like totally naked with his equipment. I mean, I'm sure there's some builds of Teklevasen where these Evo cards, you can play them like for some pieces, but not others. Like maybe if you still want to run boost in order to boost your Evo pieces to be able to play them from your like extra zone, kind of like chain, you might run Tekla Foundry Heart in order to like make that boost package work very well. But there's a lot of reasons why you might want to just run 4 Evo pieces and forego any of the other mechanologist equipment, which would mean you're basically naked at the start of the game, which can be scary.
Yeah.
There's a legendary Teklevasen specialization in this set called Singularity. And you have to transform 4 Evos you control and your weapon and your hero into this demi-hero called whatever the fuck.
Teklevasen, the Mechropotent.
The Mechropotent.
So you have to be able to transform all 4 of your equipment into Evos, which is doable, but maybe a little ambitious. And there's a playset, there's a cycle of 4 Evo Steel Soul cards that all have a different effect when you transform into them from a different base Evo, or you transform from them into a different Evo. And if you transform into the demi-hero from these, you get bonus triggers. They trigger twice.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. If you have your full, even if you actually just have the chest and the legs of Evo Steel Soul,
Oh, you're sitting pretty.
you're sitting pretty, because the moment that you flip, yeah, it costs you 6 resources to flip. That's a 3-card hand. That sucks. But hey, you have 6 resources and 2 action points. You could swing twice as your demi-hero for 12 overall damage and make them discard 2 cards.
Yeah, once you transform, he has an ability where when you may attack by pitching 3 resources, swing for 6 with your hero, because your hero now also has an attack value, and when it attacks, your opponent must discard a card.
Yeah.
Notably, though, you kind of want, like, at least the head, the chest, and the legs, because the head gives you the extra intelligence, which this Nebi hero has 3 intelligence. So at the end of the turn, you're drawing 1 less card. But if you go from these regular hero with the Evos into Teklevasen, you get basically 5 intellect.
For 1 turn.
For 1 turn, right. But that could be crucial, because after this, 18-point swing, or no, 15-point swing, excuse me, with the attacking for 12 essentially, and then them discarding 2 cards, you want to be able to keep up the tempo, theoretically, with this other line of text that says your mechanologist attack actions go again.
Yeah. So much of Teklevasen conversation is going to be on this demi-hero. The fact that it's Shadow, that it has the 6/6/6 played into it, where Singularity costs 6. It attacks for 6. It has 6 block on it. There's just a lot of that idea going around.
And I love the design for this card. I feel like they had to have had a lot of fun just making this card. What else can we slap on this card? Because once they decide, look, it's really hard to get him out. When you transform, you win the game. But let's make it a little bit more fun than you win the game. Let's make it almost kind of seem like it's not guaranteed win. Let's make him like swing for 6, and like you have to put as a discard, and he blocks 6 and 5 and 4 and see what people can do. And there's a little window where like he's technically an equipment and a hero, and then we've heard from judges on Discord that like if your hero/equipment is destroyed from equipment removal, like shatter or guardian shenanigans, then your hero dies and you lose the game, which is pretty badass. I can't wait for that to happen like at top 8 of like a Pro Tour or something. Like that'd be so
really
insane.
Cool. Also, the 3 intellect is a massive drawback. I mean, how many times have people talked about, oh my god, Data Doll is completely unplayable because Data Doll only has 3 intellect?
I actually kind of disagree. Because if you think of 4 intellect being worth 12 points, right? Like each card is 3 points. Once you've transformed, because you can pitch 3 to attack for 6, and granted you can only do that 5 times in the game, but maybe more. Like if you do that 5 times, if one of those cards is worth 6 plus they discard, you still have 12 plus points of value with your hand.
Yeah.
And you're not really playing at 3 intellect because one of those blues is worth so much more. And you're probably having a lot of blues in your deck because you've been pitching them in order to do all these Evo stuff anyway.
Yeah, all the Evos are blue. The
Plus,
ones that you care about anyways.
also have a 6 block on the
Right,
hero that's
you
an
have
equipment.
extra power that you have now, so you're not really playing with 3 intellect.
Not only that, so the wildly overstated cards that say if you have 4 Evos, get XYZ bonus, now have go again. So you go 3 for 9 with overpower, with some stupid effect that's really annoying to deal with, and then you come in with this guy with another blue. So off of 3 cards, you're threatening 15 just damage, and then whatever the on-hit effect of your big attack that you've started with, and then this guy who eats a card, which if we're talking offensively, like each card does 4 damage, that's like 3 for 10, right?
Yeah.
Or more, depending on what they have. So you're coming in for 19 off of 3 cards. That's pretty absurd.
Which is why I think that chest and leg is the most important, so that you can just fully take the tempo
For sure.
when you flip. If you're flipping and then having to pass the turn, I think it's going to be really rough on you to be able to outlast. But if you're able to take the tempo when you flip with Singularity, they just really run away with the game at that point. I don't see too much counterplay, except for the most obvious counterplay. What are you going to do against Kano?
That's right, because none of the Evos have any arcane barrier built into it.
Yeah, he's going to have a completely different game plan. And maybe even Viserai. Like,
Maybe.
that might even be a little risky.
Luckily, Mech has access to AB2 with Visiratronic model. I know that's not an Evo, so you'd have to ditch your Singularity plan in order to run like any of the Arcane Barrier cards.
Yeah.
Unless you really wanted to run like Rusted Relic or Ether Sync, like you have main deck options for Arcane Barrier.
Mini Force Field, I guess. It's a new item that gives you Ward 4 when you play it. Yeah. There's a lot that I think Teklevossen provides. I think he might be the one who shows up biggest in the meta.
That's kind of what I'm hoping, but also honestly predicting. I think he's going to be really strong, and especially in certain matchups. And I don't know, maybe I'll eat my words and he actually sucks.
So with that being said, would you guys say it's like Teklevossen at the top, like maybe Max second and then Dash third?
If I wanted to make bold predictions, I might put Dash second.
Oh, and Max being third.
Max did not get a lot from this set. I think he got a couple very interesting tools, but I don't think there's a much that really makes me go, oh, this is going to shake up the meta.
Yeah.
I just don't see a lot of that.
I would agree with you, to be honest. But I can see also the return of boost aggro could be pretty strong as well once Lexi leaves.
Because Banksy is a solid on hit.
Yeah. And boost aggro has been getting wins.
Yeah.
Right now with Dash, with the original Dash. So we'll really have to see what ends up happening. Like maybe it is just better with Max. Maybe Max has 1 or 2 tools that just helps it be a little bit more competitive. But in terms of shaking up the meta, impact on the meta, I think that's going to be Teklevossen.
For sure.
Now that we've word vomited all of our many feelings about these awesome new heroes, let's go into Yellow Pitch where we step away from the heroes specifically and talk more about some cards that caught our eye now that we've seen the whole set list.
Yeah, so this is the set list, the whole set list, the 230 other cards that have appeared in the set that we haven't talked about yet.
We'll focus on a few.
We'll focus on a few. We'll pivot it down. The first one that I want to talk about is Galvanize. The Galvanize keyword and a lot of the cards that have Galvanize on it. What's crazy is that this isn't in our notes because I had this thought while we were talking about Data Dash.
That is crazy.
In Red Pitch.
Wait, you can formulate new thoughts like that?
I know, bro. It's whack. I don't need to prepare. But I think that Galvanize is so interesting because one of the things that we've been talking about in our Discord with our two big mech players, who are our friends, you guys have already heard Han talk and how much Han loves Mechanologist. Han is pretty much a super strong dash main, and he has not been very interested by the new dash and by all the crank items. Because he goes, they just die when your turn starts if they don't have a steam counter on them, and if you want to play multiple, then you need to be cranking them, and you lose those steam counters. Like, what are these cards even doing? They're galvanized fodder. They turn your 2 blocks into 4 blocks.
I could never.
And I think we've learned just how strong that can be. We just saw Fatigue Briar turn 3 blocks into 4 blocks, and that being extremely powerful.
Okay, I see the idea you're going for, but I think I strongly disagree. Because
I think they're wildly different. They are wildly different. I completely agree with that.
my instinct for Galvanize is like, I cannot block 2 cards for 4. I am losing. If I have 2 cards blocking for 4, 2 blocks, that's not good value. I don't care if like one was an item. I don't care if like it's flexible. Like, my value gamer cringes at the thought of like blocking for 4 with Galvanize. And I understand that like you're not necessarily blocking with a card from hand, because if you pitch to get the item out there, then it's like, okay, I'm not blocking for a whole card and like 2 whole cards, and the flexibility can be really nice because those other cards have other modes. I just like turned off by the idea.
I mean, look, one of the big complaint was these items, when they don't have a steam counter, they just die at the start of your turn. But you can get block value out of these items. So back in the Dust to Dawn episode, I had mentioned how I think LSS really looked at Levia as like, where are her non-functional play points? And then they addressed those. I think they did the same thing with items here for Data Dash. They said, what are the non-functional points of items? No go again, no block value. And they gave it go again through crank and block value through galvanize.
Yeah.
Again, they're not giving you it directly on the cards. That's the boring way. That's not interesting, exciting. It doesn't promote new ways of gameplay. It turns it into every other card.
It's very balanced.
Right, because if they printed these new items with galvanize or with 2 block, it kind of invalidates the rest of the item pool that Dash already likes, like Teklo Core, Teklo Pounder, whatever. So now that galvanize hits all of the items, it makes it like a real keyword outside of limited, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think there's totally a very interesting deck. Like, I think Galvanize is going to have to be run in Dash, in Data Dash. But people are not very... I just don't think people look at it and see power.
Right.
And that's why no one's really talking about it too much right now.
Yeah.
Everyone's bothered by the big, bright, shiny Evos. They're not looking at the stealthy Galvanize. Turn your cards in hand into D-Reacts. That's strong. It's a good ability.
Not only that, some of these items have really strong static effects, and you might get use out of it for like maybe you're hedging against a specific effect. You play this item. Okay, I don't have any more steam counters on my turn. It's gonna die. I'm just gonna scrap it. Or on the other side with Max, he has a bunch of these hyperdrivers that he creates every turn. Maybe he's like trashing the ones that he plays with galvanize to get him in the graveyard and be played later on.
Oh, get him into the graveyard quicker.
The way you phrased that, Joel, I think you're right. I'm an idiot. I have to take back my entire rant. So, like, I play a card. I don't crank it, right? It has a steam counter. My next turn rolls around. It loses a steam counter but doesn't go anywhere. I get to get value out of it, right? Threaten it on hit, boost all my cards +1. then I pass my turn, drop to 4. I can then block with the item that I already got value out of and get an extra 2 block. Okay, that the value gamer in me is
Yeah,
coming
he's
back
back,
around.
baby.
So one thing I want to talk about is how going into this set, we were about to see the largest expansion of any class's card pool in the game.
Yeah.
We've never had a class go from tiny card pool to huge ass mega card pool.
Card pool.
Literally
200 new cards.
Right. Another 200 cards got added to the mech card pool. And mechs were really strict before about what they could run because they'd wanted to run all mechanologist cards. But now we have a situation where there's so many cards. Guys, do you feel like LSS actually added 200 cards to mech's card pool? Do you feel like we have 200 plus more options for mechs to run?
No.
Yeah. I know Clark and I disagree. That's a little bit of foreshadowing, but like conservatively, maybe 180 new cards.
Okay.
But I think there's a lot of new cards that got added. That
Listeners, you can't see me right now, but I just rolled my eyes so hard.
What's up, Clark? What you thinking about?
So back in the pitch and predictions episode for Bright Lights, I made the prediction that they were going to reprint a bunch of boost cards because I didn't really see them being able to expand the boost card pool in a way that was both healthy and interesting.
Sure, like 0 to 60, throttle, and zipper hit are perfect. So why would we make cards that are better than that?
Exactly. And they didn't. They definitely worked. They printed a lot of underrate cards. So I mentioned that I've been building a lot of Max, which means I've been looking a lot at the boost cards that exist. And I just don't want to run most of the new boost cards. I'm not very excited by them. They're 0 for 3s with boost when I have 0 for 4s with 0 to 60. If I have 0 to 60, why would I ever run 0 to 50? It's a strict downgrade. And there's so many of these across the set. Even in a slot that they could have made. So currently we have a 0 for 4, a 1 for 5, and a 2 for 6, all with boost. The next logical plan would be a 3 for 7 with boost. And they had the opportunity with this with Gas Guzzler. But Gas Guzzler is a 3 for 6. Why would I ever run Gas Guzzler over Throttle? The answer is I never would. I would never run that card.
Unless you wanted more poppers.
Not even. I would find poppers elsewhere, honestly. In fact, in that instance, I would look at Rev Up and Jumpstart. Or not Jumpstart. Jumpstart's not a popper. But I would look at those cards because at least then they could get to this standard ratio that I'm looking for. The 2 for 6 and the 1 for 5. Because they get discounted by having a hyperdriver on the field.
Yeah. Or Big Bertha, which is the 3 for 6, but can get with a crankshaft effect where you banish it to put a steam counter on a hyperdriver.
Yeah, I would much rather run that card, and I still don't even like running that card because I don't like ending up with it in hand.
Well, that's an interesting case just because mech might want more poppers that are mechanologist poppers so they can keep boosting but still pop. But yeah, I think I'm kind of getting the vibe that LSS said, hey, we are not going to give you 200 cards that are playable in any serious match of Classic Constructed. We might not even print 200 cards that are seriously playable in any constructed format, Blitz, even Commoner, because they drowned us in options, cards that are slight variants, but they're mostly meant to be like limited pack filler. I feel similarly about like Skyward Shot from Outsiders. It basically did the exact same thing as Infecting Shot or Sedation Shot, but it doesn't give you any disease token. It's still a 1 for 5 plus 1 with aim. And it's just there to be pack filler, right? Or, and this is definitely a sideways screwball tangent, but there are ways to play and interface with the game other than in making decks to be used to win against each other, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm playing a Mechanologist Cube, I might want to have a singleton cube, and I need LSS to print lots of fucking cards if I want to have a singleton cube with 8 players in it. And if I want Mechanologist to be in that cube, then I need there to be lots of mechanologist cards, you know? And it does seem a little silly for LSS to print just for cube and fringe formats, but I mean, it also fills out the draft format in Bright Lights as well.
Yeah, I will totally support that that is okay, and I definitely like that there is some of that, and I will even say I like some of the new boost cards. I think Expedite and Medex are like these strict downgrades. It's a 0 for 3 and 1 for 4, but they give it this interesting on-hit of, if this hits, I get to put an item from my hand into play, which then I could net an action point with Crank. Like, I think that's very interesting. I like those cards, but Expedite is just a better 0 to 50. They also printed Data Link and Expedite. Those are 0 for 3s with boost, but they have an effect when they hit. So they're automatically better than 0 to 50. So not only did they give us this strict downgrade, they also printed 2 strict upgrades to that card. Like, I think that the deck construction for CC Mechanologist, if you're going for the boost aggro plan, has not changed tremendously. I think a lot of the cards that they've printed are not very playable, and we're not going to see a lot of play. Because even in that Jumpstart and Rev Up that I mentioned, where those are interesting because it's like, hey, we think Throttle and Zipper Hit might be a little too strong, but if you have a Hyperdriver, it's like the same card. Okay, why wouldn't I, in my CC deck, just run Zipper Hit and Throttle? Because they're just...
You would, but you need to have 60 cards.
I already have 60 cards. People are running Boost Mechanologist right now.
Yeah, but I think a lot of them are not necessarily best in slot anymore. For instance, I think T-Bone, let's be honest, it's really good in some matchups, but it's a sideboard card that a lot of people were practically mainboarding because they just wanted more 0 for anything boost, 0 cost boost cards. And like Data Link could be an upgrade for that because at least you get to opt. Or Expedite, at least you get to maybe put an item if you're still planning on playing items.
That's kind of how I feel too, because there's a lot of items that say if an attack action hits, you get XYZ effect. There's also still Tekla Pounder that's a thing. So there's ways to make your cards above rate, albeit with a little bit more work. But like, for instance, Bomb Grenade that deals like 4 damage if something hits.
Yeah.
Like if you're peppering them with like 0 for 3s and you have a critical mass of those, it can get kind of annoying because now they like... typically vanilla damage is not seen as like, oh, I need to block this, other than like I'm about to die or I could die if they follow up with a fat attack at the end, so I need to conserve life here. So now with these like 0 for 3s that we've gotten more of and certain items that have on hits, maybe there's some middle ground there where you're using Expedite to threat an on hit, put an item down, and then you, like with your go again, you put an item down anyways, and you arsenal another card that's 0 for 3. And that way, you're creating on hits and more breakpoints technically, or just extra damage where there normally wouldn't be with these seemingly below rate cards.
I would also say that what we're talking about there specifically feels a lot more like a data dash plan than, say, a max plan. And I'm interested to see if people are able to make it work, but like I'm very unexcited by it. And as these cards came out, they didn't produce excitement because I'm saying, oh, this is worse. Numbers wise, this is worse.
You're expecting like a power creep.
Maybe not a power creep necessarily. I mean, once again, my prediction was that they were just going to reprint a bunch of these cards because I didn't see them power creeping it at all. And also, the first set that all these Mechanologist cards came out in, it was a while ago. And that set's going to become more and more inaccessible as time goes on. Reprinting them in this big Mechanologist push where they're probably not going to revisit Mechanologist for a very long time made a lot of sense to me. Reflood the marketplace with those base commons and those base cards that are going to go in every deck.
Yeah.
It seemed to make a lot of sense, and the fact that they haven't done it, you know, I don't think Zipper Hit's going to become a $1-2 common in the future, like Mavrian Skies has become. But I think it is going to maybe make it a little inaccessible come a year, 2 years from now.
And not even price-wise, just accessibility-wise.
Yeah.
Finding stores that even have it.
Yeah.
Luckily, we just saw a bunch of those in History Pack 1.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so there's other ways to go about it. That's a pretty good segue, though, into the expansion slot. One way that we can get new cards into the field without having a dedicated set. Now, me, as a more refined and luxurious player, I don't really mess around with this mechanologist stuff.
They are greasy.
They're just like oil and half the art.
Well, Max is.
Yeah, he definitely needs to take a shower. So players like me kind of look at the expansion slot as a way to keep me in the game and give me a reason why I should buy any of this product or pay attention to it whatsoever. And there was like 3 or 4 cards, and I'm like, damn, now I need to buy this freaking product or wait till like people to pull it for me to get this card, which is smart on LSS's part because with Dust Hold On, they kind of had a similar effect where people got some stuff, but large and far by. What am I trying to say?
By and large.
Thank you. But by and large, that was a set for light and shadow, right? So having a core set, you have to figure out a way to keep more of your player base engaged. Mm-hmm. And some of the cards that I think were genius to put in was obviously Fandle Spring Tunic. They just spoiled and confirmed Teklo Foundry Heart, and
That's actually not in the expansion slots. That's taking up a legendary slot.
you're
in
joking.
The main set.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
That is a reprint. It's not going to be Teklo Foundry Heart.
Got it.
Is not going to be in the expansion slot. It is a pullable legendary.
I stand corrected. That's pretty cool though. Mm-hmm. But a third, third Fandle Spring Tunic reprint. I think that's pretty awesome because that card was again pushing $200.
Yeah, honestly, like with Tunic, it's almost literally the gateway into the game.
For
you
sure.
know? Like, if you're a new player, one of the first things you learn is that you have to buy a $200 card if you want to play any of the decks that you really want to play. And the more ways that we can get those into the hands of players, I think that's the better it is for the game. It just so happens to be that one card is literally Flesh and Blood. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And it was always funny to me because you could either buy Fandle Spring Tunic or you could buy Teklo Foundry Heart because there's only one hero that uses it and it's pretty cheap. And so they reprinted that one too. So I think that move makes the game itself and the set a lot more accessible to the people who are not immediately mech fans.
Yeah. I've also just noticed so many more people are mech fans from this set. Mm-hmm. And like, I think a lot of people are going to be buying boxes and cases looking for those expansion slot cards, and then they're going to look at their pile and could be like, well, I guess I'll throw something together. And then they're going to have fun, and they're going to be like, shit, do I like mech?
I really want to play that freaking tome of Imperial Flame, and I'm going to start bringing Emperor to Armories. Like, that card looks so fun.
So wonky. It's so interesting.
In Emperor, you can have like these really cool like 1-card hands that turn into Command and Conquer. Like, if all you have is the tome, you can Command and Conquer. It's crazy.
That is kind of cool.
Isn't it? 1-card hand is Command and Conquer.
That's actually really cool.
It makes me want to play Emperor. It's actually not bad. And those expansion slot cards, somehow it's like LSS is able to wave 1 card in front of us and be like, oh, I actually want to play this hero now.
Yeah.
I've never played this hero before, but I actually want to because I saw 1 card in the expansion slot. They're able to like reignite your passion for all these different heroes, and those heroes aren't even in this set. It's 1 card.
Speaking of other heroes, so there's a few other support cards that got printed alongside the mech cards, which we did not expect because it's a mech only set. Mm-hmm. So why would we expect to get support for, things like Illusionist or Draconic in general? Mm-hmm. But we saw Smashing Performance. Now, originally when this set got spoiled, I was like, oh my god, Arc Smash all the way to the freaking bank. Only to find out one of the heroes really cares about items that much. The other one creates tokens. The third is a fucking Power Ranger, so he doesn't care either. So Smashing Performance is like, I was like, let's go. The first card spoiled, by the way. I was like, let's go. And then I find out you have to discard a random 6 after drawing, and then it's only after that you destroy a random item on the battlefield. God forbid you play it with an E-Pot on your side of the field and you hit that in brute fashion, destroying your own shit. So things like that were like, it makes sense, item destruction in an item set, but it only hits a third of the field and it's still very inconsistent. And then you see things like,
there's Already Dead, which is a really interesting assassin card that could banish equipment if they block with equipment, and then Already Dead is able to deal damage. But the expansion slot, they've printed story cards with Slay to destroy target angel.
Yep.
They're printing, other legendary equipment, the Warband of Bologna.
Oh,
Shriek
baby.
razors.
They are giving love to brand new heroes who came out a little underpowered, like with Intoxicating Shot for Riptide.
Let's go.
They are teasing the possibility of some future directions with Sonata Phantasmia and Phantom Tidemaw. They're doing some really interesting things, I think, with this expansion slot. They're really seeing what works and what might not work. What are players responding to? What are players not responding to with the use of this slot?
Yeah, and with LSS's like release schedule, like was it 3-4 sets a year? There can be a lot of time in between where certain heroes get like really run down from the meta. Little trinkets like this are a good way to make sure that those heroes aren't left unattended for too long by printing little nuggets like this to combat the upcoming set.
For Blue Pitch today, let's take a look at some of the predictions we made way back in episode 9 when we were strapping young bucks full of hope and dreams. And let's see what we thought might possibly be in this set.
Oh, you poor naive
Fuzzy, this was
fools.
like a little over a month ago.
So, would anyone like to keep score?
I'll keep score.
So, here's the format that I'm proposing.
Okay.
I'll read a prediction and say who made it. The other two hosts will to say whether they get a 0 point, a full point, a half point, a 3/4 point, and we'll just kind of take the average of whatever the other two hosts say. Okay.
I think half or full point.
Not
Okay.
3/4.
And Fuzzy, you get to be the tiebreaker.
Well, and it's whoever makes the prediction. So if you make a prediction, we'll be voting it.
Oh, okay. I like it. I like
Okay.
that. I like
Yeah,
that.
okay.
But yeah, only 0, half point, or full point.
No
Let's not do
three-quarter.
quarters.
Okay.
Quarters makes things so complicated.
Well, I feel like I should have the freedom to give a 0.8 of a point.
You can do so internally. I will not be writing that down.
Yeah, you just round, Joel. You round
I'll round it to 0.5.
You get like an eighth of a point, and Joel's just like 0.
So I'll say a prediction based off of someone, and the other two hosts will give either 0, 1, or a half point, and maybe we'll take the average or whatever if there's any arguments.
Okay.
So first, rapid fire. These are some cards that we thought might be in the expansion slot. Joel, is Artivore in the expansion slot?
Hey,
Joel, I don't think Artivore got reprinted. Unfortunately, that would have been sick, but 0.
0.
wah, wah.
Clark, is Glistening Steelblade in the expansion slots? Totally would have made
Blade is.
totally would have made sense for them to reprint Glistening Steelblade. Maybe they're saving it for a different expansion slot. We can only hope. 0.
0.
0.
Sorry, bud.
Guys, did they print a new Riptide Trap?
No, you buffoon. They did, however, print a new arrow. Is that worth half a point? What do you say, Clark?
You
I
guys
think
are the
it's-
judges.
I think it's worth a half a point.
Half a point? I think I'm inclined to agree with you.
Because the
Let's
idea
go.
was that Riptide gets a card.
Yep.
And Riptide got not just a card, a Riptide specialization card.
It turns on his traps.
And it turns on his traps.
It's
It,
a trap-centric Riptide card.
You know what, Fuzzy? You get 0.51.
I'm writing it down. Run it down. 0.5.
Yeah.
Clark predicted there would be a new Shadow or Light card in the expansion slot. And full points. There was a Shadow card, Slay,
Slay.
and a Light card in the form of Warband of Bologna. So
Yeah. I think my prediction was specifically to further the story along and Slay sort of hitting these angels being
Fuck
a little
them
bit of
angels
that.
for real.
Yeah. Fuck
Clark
them
gets 1
angels.
point.
Let's go.
Clark also predicted there would be a new Ira specialization. That did not happen.
Clarky poo.
There was a ninja card, but not an Ira spec. And I do believe Clark specifically was saying an Ira shout out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ira. I was saying Ira.
0.
specifically.
0.
Joel predicted a new playable merchant hero. I actually think I remember writing this one as a joke. I don't think Joel actually predicted this one. But
We might have cut that out of the episode.
either way, Joel, you do not get a point for there was no new merchant hero.
Damn.
For that prediction you may or may not have made. Schrodinger's prediction. 0 points.
I, Fuzzy, had predicted there might be some new lightning cards.
There are no new
Big
lightning
fat
cards.
0.
I think that totally could have happened though.
Yeah.
Though maybe they were scared with Lexi being so dominant in the meta leading up to it. Maybe they were just like, let's put some other card in that slot and push this down the line.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Out of everything that could have happened, we actually got kind of 1.5 things in there. I'm kind of proud of us. Moving on a little bit, both Joel and Clark had predicted that Combustible Courier and or other old mech cards will be reprinted. And we definitely saw some, like Max Velocity is reprinted at Majestic.
Yeah.
Overloop.
Overloop, yeah. Tekla Foundry Heart at Legendary. And I think the spirit of this prediction isn't quite there, but I would still actually give it a full point. There's
Wow.
I'm being a little bit generous. Oh, and I'm the only one who would judge this, huh?
Yeah.
I'll give you guys a full point.
Let's go.
Wow. I would say no point.
Overloop, Hyperdriver, Max Velocity. I've seen enough.
Jury's out. They
That
get a
was
point.
very few cards. I was talking zipper hits and throttles and combustible courier. Like I was saying the commons.
We got some.
Okay, going on to specific mechanics. Clark said Crank will be a quote-unquote a keyword that gives go again. And does it give explicitly go again? No, but I would definitely give a half point at least here.
I mean, go again refunds an action point.
Yeah.
So does go again. All right. So it is Crank. So I'd say half a point. What about you, Fuzz?
I'm going to say half a point.
All right.
But that's
This
so close to a
is
full point.
Bullshit. My whole thing was like, they're gonna fix the action point problem. It's gonna give go again. If I just said it's gonna like fix the no go again issue, I would have a full point.
For
there.
sure.
If I lose by half a point, I'm gonna be so tilted.
I think you're in the lead right now. So I think it could calm down there.
We'll see. Right now we're in my section.
Joel said, quote, Crank will be something that gives items from the banished to the arena. And that is not what Crank does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clark, would you agree? 0 points?
Yeah, 0 points.
Sorry, Joel.
There is Heist, which is a great flexible Majestic, which I think everyone's going to end up running Heist. Which when it hits, you get to put a item of cost 0 or 1 from Banish into the field.
Yeah.
Great card. That's a super flexible Majestic.
For
Yes.
sure.
Just not Crank.
Notably
Yeah.
does not have Crank. Yeah.
Fuzzy said, a keyword that can put extra Steam counters on your items is what Crank will be.
Oh no, it takes away the Steam counters.
Well, okay. Can I argue my cause a little bit here?
No.
You didn't let me. No, go for it, Fuzzy.
So
go for
Crank
it.
is basically either it comes in with fewer counters and go again, or it comes in with more counters and no go again. It's kind of like
Oh
extra.
my-
So
Steam
the
counters.
question is, does he get a half a point?
No.
You guys can disagree.
I'm feeling. No, you're right. No, that's not even me being competitive. That is the
Like, you're
the
not-
letter was gives extra Steam counters to give more value to them. It's literally taking away Steam counters.
Yeah.
Let's move on to what will -IO do? Because we knew that there was a hero called -IO. We had no idea what she did. Fuzzy said, -IO will banish 2 items from your graveyard to put an item of cost 2 or less from your banish zone into play. Very specific. And then Fuzzy said, or is this Crank? It's not Crank, Fuzzy. You're totally off. Let's just go on to the next one.
I already wrote 0.
I think it was a great idea.
Yeah.
What will the third hero be like? This ended up being Max the Hype Nitro. Fuzzy said Elias Edgecombe, which we've seen in some flavor text on cards as kind of being a mechanologist guy. That is not his name. That did not come up. I don't even know if we've seen any flavor text from that character.
In
since
fact, the guy with the top hat, Elias Edgecombe, does not have any flavor text on Overloop anymore.
What? They took away the flavor
I think they
text?
took it off, yeah.
Joel, you said the third hero would have a static effect. Does Max have a
He
static
does.
effect?
He
Oh,
does.
yeah.
Let's go!
All hyperdrivers have Crank 1.
That's a static effect.
Nice. Good
Give
job,
give
Joel.
yourself a point, Joel. Woohoo! Clark also said that there's going to be some cyberpunk, neon lights, Akira-style motorcycles. I feel like the reason I'm not just giving you this point is because we did literally see a lot of this beforehand. I think
It was also for Max. By the way, that was my third hero prediction. It was Max is going to be the cyberpunk guy,
okay,
which
thrill seekers and parkour. We don't see parkour.
No, outside of the Circuit Breaker set. Or outside of the Breaker set
Yeah.
of Evos. Which was the main art that I was referencing. I thought those were going to be followers. Instead, it's like this big art.
I think it might just be a triptych.
I'm not sure. There's like a specific...
TRIPTYCH triptych. But triptych might just be 3.
Yeah, but it ends up being one of those where like there's a big art of all 4 of these, but they're 4 separate cards. I thought they were going to be followers. Instead, they are Majestic Equipment. Personal, I would say half point.
Really?
I don't think there's enough cyberpunk.
There was not a whole lot more.
Did you say motorcycle?
Gas Up, but like Gas Up isn't really cyberpunky.
Moonshot.
He said cyberpunk, comma, neon lights, comma, Akira style motorcycles.
And there's really only Rev Up. Like, I think it's so few cards when I was saying it was going to be the whole aesthetic of the hero. Of the boost cards. And that is not the case.
It's in some, yeah.
It's in a few.
It's not the entire identity, but
It's not the entire identity. I think I deserve half a point because I think Max having the cyberpunk aesthetic is definitely a lot.
So Clark, since there's some, but most of it that we see now is this the stuff that was in the trailer, I think I'm going to give you a half point here.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say a full point, but since it's 2-1, I'll put down half points.
Yeah. Oh, God, I argued against myself.
Clark also thought there might be a new type of Marvel where there are cyberpunk aesthetics. And I don't think that's what we saw.
We did see, well, that is a new Marvel, right? The Teklevossen, but it's not steampunky.
Like, it's not like alternate art where the, like, steampunk is turning to cyberpunk. It's not like that.
I really would have preferred that as a Marvel, but unfortunately it wasn't there. So it's a...
Clark, you said more finishers.
Yeah, more boost finishers.
Is that what it says?
Yes.
It was more boost finishers, more finishers for the boost plan. Because currently they're at the
like
time,
as a spec?
At the time there was only max velocity. So I was saying there needs to be more payoff for having these long combat chains of boost.
Those did get printed.
There are more.
There's one notable one where if it has like 10 or more power, it gets overpower.
Is that for boosting? That one's just for banishing hyperdrivers.
No, there is Big Shot, Burn Rubber, and Smash and Grab. They are 3 rare red cards that all cost 3, and they all give you an effect if you've boosted 2 or more times this turn.
I would count that.
I'm okay to call that as a finisher too. Like if it's... No, yeah. That seems like a point to me.
Is it 2 or more other times?
2 or more times.
They don't have boost themselves.
Oh, okay. I definitely count that.
Need to be played at the end of your chain.
Yeah, that seems like a finisher.
Okay, so back when there was a barcode covering up the Evo Steel Soul Memory, we made predictions for what would be under the barcode. It turned out to be that whenever this transforms into a hero, its ability triggers twice. But we all predicted different things. Clark, you said the censoring is for crank or another keyword. And it wasn't.
It is not.
Joel, you said go again or additional resources. And that's not quite true.
It was on some of them, to be fair.
But the censoring was because it's when you transform into a hero, it triggers twice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I would vote no. We also talked about that a bit before.
Mm-hmm. I was hoping you changed your mind.
I said it was going to be the name of the third hero, which is also not true.
None
of us could have predicted this.
I'm going to say 0.15 of a point because it is like it specifically referenced a new demi hero and like that being a really big aspect of the card, but I don't think it was the third hero.
Yeah, so 0.15 rounded up is 2, 0.2 rounded down is 0. So
Yeah,
got it.
we'll all square it up.
Fuzzy said Teklevossen is the boost hero, and there's another Evo hero. What was Fuzzy thinking?
Fuzzy,
I think he put that one down as a joke. Clark said it's a big downside. No idea what that means.
Under the censor bar.
Yeah.
Under the censor bar, it was going to be a downside because I'm like, this card is cracked. This card is so good.
They're going to hide the downside so the players get excited about
Yeah,
it.
there's no way they make it worse or better, right? They absolutely did.
Yeah.
And that's all I got for predictions. That was fun.
Yeah.
What do you got, Joel?
The winner is Clark.
Hey!
Day.
with 5 points.
Day, you did 5 things right.
I have a question.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. 4 points.
Oh, okay.
But you still won.
I have a question. How many more predictions did I make?
Oh
than
my!
you
I was just
guys?
gonna say, like, you made like 100 of them. I made like 2.
Bro, you just got to keep swinging. If you
Even it's 100% of the shots you don't take.
Joel,
I'm batting 220, but I'm hitting those home runs.
See, Joel, now you and I either need to petition to change the format
Yeah, no, seriously.
or like get some rules in this.
We're gonna put an
podcast.
asterisk next to your win here, and then we're gonna make up rules for the next one.
Or next time we just gotta swamp the board with questions.
Yeah, exactly. So I was in second place with 2 full points, and then Fuzzy had 0.5.
Oh, wait, never mind. I creamed you by 2 points. Never mind. Fuck you guys. I'm
Well,
king.
I'm actually gonna give myself a point for predicting the next demi hero and how they interact with it. So I'm at 3 and still in second place.
All right, boys, you ready to move into our Arsenal zone?
I was born ready.
So our Arsenal Zone is the section of our podcast where we talk about cards, not necessarily about the episode, but maybe something that we've been playing with, something that we've been thinking about, or a card that we just like or hate. Really anything. I need to get back to doing cards I hate. We need to do more cards that suck. Joel, let's start off with you. What's your Arsenal card?
So my Arsenal card is a card that is probably one of the best reasons why you should play Levi, and that's Carrion Husk. And why it's so amazing is because it blocks for 6 one time. However, this card is so strong that they're like, hey, let's give this to more heroes. So they made Teklovasen a fucking Carrion Husk. What the fuck were you thinking? Not only does he get... You pay 6 for an extra Carrion Husk. Gee whiz, wish I could do that. But he also gets Steel Soul Memory, which each block for 3. So you have access to, like, what? 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 times 4 is 8, 20, plus 4 times 1, 24 block, and then 6 more for 30 total armor block. What in the fuck?
Well, you're not blocking for 3 each time because it has temper. It'll break on that third block.
No, it's Battle Worn.
The Evo Steel Souls have Battle Worn.
Oh, it is Battle Worn. Okay.
Teklovasen has Battle Worn. Wait,
Teklovasen is
what the
Battle
fuck
Worn.
did I just say? The equipments have temper. Teklovasen has Battle Worn.
Yeah, so with the Steel Soul, you'll get like 12.
Five per equipment. That's 20 plus 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, yeah, so it's even more. All that being said, I just get 1, and it starts to kill me the moment I start to use it. I think that's bullshit. So I'm hoping we get some way to recur Carrion Husk so that...
Oh
we'll
my
buy it,
god.
right? Anyways, that's my card.
Carrion Husk is so funny because like it starts to kill you once it banishes you. Except Levia can turn it off so much. I think it's really good in Levia more so than in Chain or even Vincent.
Yeah.
Levia makes such good use of it.
That's my card. Clark, do you want to go next? What's your card?
Sure. So the card that I chose for today is Mango.
Spooky.
That's about as funny as I'm going to be with this. I can't come up with a joke. So Mangle is this really great Guardian action card that I really, really like. I saw that Guardian had all of these cards that like interacted with opponents' equipment, and I'm like, wait a minute, breaking equipment's one of the greatest things you can do in the game. And now it's even better, because now I can just straight up kill my opponent with this. Mangle is a 4 cost, 8 attack, 3 block crush card that says if it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, destroy target equipment they control with a -1 counter on it, which is pretty awesome. I really like this card. I like the 4 for 8s in the Crush archetype because I think it pairs very, very nicely both with the like Seismic Surge that you create every turn. Then it makes it a 3 for 8. Love that. It also very nicely lets you pitch 2 blues so that you can play it and then hold up Pummel.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Dominate.
That too.
Off of
Oh,
Bravo.
that's fine. I don't really play it. Like,
Because Dominate's really good because like I block with any 3 or 4 block, I'm still getting crushed, you know? I have to give up equipment.
Yeah. And in the late game, if you don't even have equipment, I'm just kind of guaranteeing that situation.
Yep.
But yeah, Pummel. Yeah.
Pummel. Buy it today. Yeah, no, Mangle is awesome. It's also super sick art. I want to see more art like this in the game. Big gothic cathedral behind him, dramatic lighting, and this just giant oaken death knight looking motherfucker just bearing down with a giant axe that looks so impractical, but so cool. Oh man, how have we not gotten cosplay of this guy yet?
Yeah, true.
Mm-hmm. It's sick. I love Mangle. Mangle's a cool card. Now it can kill a hero. Fuzzy, what about you? What do you got for us? What's our gift?
Fuzzy.
Money, please.
Money, please.
Fuzzy. Lost. I want my full 2 minutes.
We used our full 2 minutes. You're going to get your full 2 minutes. God damn it.
Fuzzy. Lost after his hero rotates. Fuzzy goes to his friends. Could I maybe borrow a deck, please? How about Assassin? Fuzzy borrows Azuri from Daniel. Daniel lets Fuzzy borrow his cobbled together assassin deck. It's his secondary, so he's still working on it. So I go to an armory with it. I play Azuri for the first time. I have a lot of fun. I think I go 2-2 by some miracle, just scrapping it together. The only contract cards in his deck at the time were Leave No Witnesses and Surgical Extraction, which are great. But there's also, I feel like a lot of other good contract stuff, and I'm supposed to be, fatiguing people sometimes. The list that Daniel had was kind of aggressive. It had, looking for scraps, which are really cool. I like looking for scraps. They also had nimbleisms. And at the end of the day, he was like, what do you think I should, put in it? And I was like, I don't know, maybe some more contract cards. Some of the commons are pretty cool. And he was like, okay. And then he was messaging me on Discord, and he was like, here's a couple different lists. Which one of these do you like better? And I'm like, these look exactly the same, and neither of them have contract. Look, I don't know what I'm talking about. I do not know what I'm talking about. But, I would put in Annihilate the Armed. And he's like, oh, okay, here's just some stuff I saw online. And then I borrowed the Armory deck again next week, and he's like, what do I put in here? Because I'm missing a couple cards, and I can bring Annihilate the Armed, and I brought it, and I played it. So much more my style, but it was mid. So here I am. It's the card I've been thinking about the most lately. It's Annihilate the Arm. I've got one in a black sleeve and one in a pink sleeve because I firmly believe these are Arachne's colors.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Annihilate the Armed is great. It's a really big part of how I build my Arachne deck, of making sure that I always have a 1-cost attack that I can throw. It pairs really nicely with daggers.
I feel like it's also really not bad to swap in with Azuri. No, does it cost 2 for 6? No. 1 for 5? Whatever. Swapping in a 5 cost, banish a top card, maybe get some silver out of it. It's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
That's my card. And I'm going to sign it and give it to you guys.
That's a pretty novel idea. We should do that every episode.
Whip, 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 whip. Whip, whip, whip.
What you don't understand, listeners, is that is the sound that Fuzzy makes every single time he signs these cards. It's just always really quiet, and we cut it out in editing. We decided to leave it in this time, just for you. Just a little treat.
We definitely did not do that. I like this pink, too. It's like fuchsia.
Oh, I love that pink color. I put my Viserai deck in that color.
One for you and one for you.
Thank you, Fuzzy.
You. This is going right in my Arachne deck.
Hey, it didn't fudge either.
I've been waving them,
He's been
doing this number.
I like that number. Awesome.
Well, thank you, listeners, for listening like you do. We're so excited to play Bright Lights. Hope you are too. Hope to see you around at a local armory. Do you guys have anything you want to say to the listeners before they leave?
Bye.
Listeners, this is the best time to get friends into Flesh and Blood.
Oh, yeah.
Crack Shuffle play. 4-pack sealed. You can buy 1 box and get 5 friends, and you can all play sealed together. This is the best time to get people into the game. I highly, highly recommend that you use this as an opportunity to reach out to people around you who might be interested in the game and bring them in.
Or play any other hero besides Mech. push them off of mech.
Yeah, they get an expansion slot card, be like, that hero.
It wouldn't
Yeah.
go down like this, but can you imagine the guy that's been playing Flesh and Blood for a couple months, but only like Bright Lights Limited, and they're like, wait, this is a fantasy game?
Bye, listeners. So long.
Pitch It To Me podcast is hosted by me, Joel Recinos, Clark Moore, and Fuzzy Delp. Our executive producer is Talon Stradley. Our logistics coordinator is John Farkas. Our music is produced by Dylan Hulse. Our logo is designed by Han V. And our sound mixing is done by Christopher Moore. Last but not least, thank you, the listener, for taking the time to listen to our podcast. Be sure to give us a follow on your favorite social media platform at Pitch It To Me Podcast.